Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Low Def Media Podcast. This is Mike, and today just some general thoughts, some topics, some things to discuss. First of all, testing out a new microphone. It's the FDuce SL40. I saw a lot of buzz about this microphone on YouTube and decided to give it a shot. It is a great value. List for $99, but with the Amazon coupon, get it for $69.99. So I would be very interested to get your feedback. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of this microphone compared to other microphones I've used on this channel. I've used a few. I've used the Blue Snowball. I've used the Blue Yeti. And I believe I used the Rode Video Go microphone back in the early days. And I've probably thrown in a couple very inexpensive USB mics by Fifine just for sampling purposes. So do me a favor, in the comments or email, let me know what you think of this particular microphone because it sounds really good on YouTube when those content creators are using it. But then in the hands of a novice like myself, wondering if I can get it to perform as well as they do. So let me know. All right, so let's get into today's topics. What do we have on tap for you today? Let me pull up my quick notes. All right, so a couple things before we get too far into this. If you are listening on Spotify, you can go out to YouTube, to the Low Def Media page there, and you can watch the video episode of this podcast if you like, if you prefer to get your content by video instead of just by audio. Or if you're on YouTube and you see this and you just want to, if you don't have time to listen to the whole thing, you want to listen to it on the way to work, it's also on Spotify, also on Low Def Media. So let's get into the topics real quick. I'm still very much amazed at the amount of people that I'm seeing out and about doing normal everyday things. And when I say normal everyday things, I'm talking about going to a restaurant. Every time I go to a restaurant, and case in point, I'll give you a reference point. Yesterday, this is my birthday weekend, and so I went out to dinner with my wife and my parents, and we went to Ted's Montana Grill. Now, if you've ever been to Ted's isn't like going to, I don't know, Moe's or going to Texas Roadhouse. It's probably a little pricier than Texas Roadhouse or going to Applebee's or going to Chili's, something like that. So you've got different tiers. If you look online and you look up a restaurant, they have little dollar bill signs or whatever graphic they use to tell you, what the price point is. And Ted's is, it's a step up from going to like a Texas Roadhouse. It's up there, kind of like a Longhorns, I would say. But the difference is Ted's Montana Grill serves bison. All right, so that's I guess their signature dish, right? Is bison. They have bison meatloaf, bison hamburgers. So very nice restaurant. It doesn't matter where it's at. It's just a nice restaurant, okay? So it's a little different atmosphere than going to some of your more local restaurants, right? There's not that many of them. And so the point I'm trying to make is we get there, and I like to eat early, like to beat a crowd. So we get to the restaurant, it's 5 o'clock. We're one of probably 2 or 3 tables that are currently being occupied in the restaurant. But I'm telling you, by the time we left at around 6:45, the place is packed. There's not an open seat left, and there are people waiting to get in. So that if it were a $10 restaurant, like going to Chick-fil-A, if it was like McDonald's or Wendy's, okay, I can understand that. You hear all this talk about a recession, so I can understand that. People are going to go where it's less expensive. But when you're talking about a restaurant where the price point's a little bit different and you have waiters and you have booths and it's a different atmosphere, when I see that, I'm thinking, okay, they're talking about a recession. They're talking about, and I see what they're talking about. The prices are more expensive. The cost of goods and services has gone up. Paychecks have not gone up to compensate for that, or to, compensate. And so I understand what they're saying. All the ingredients are there for a recession, but I just don't see people being affected by it as much as you would think. Another case in point, I go to an outlet mall. Okay, go to an outlet mall, do some shopping again, birthday weekend. So that's one of the things you do when it's your birthday. You go out and you shop, right? So I'm out there and I'm looking around, and the parking lot is packed, and there's just people everywhere. And so I'm wondering, okay, when is this? And I don't want to sound like I'm dense or something, but I want to know when are we going to see the effects of a recession? And I don't want there to be a recession. I don't want people to stop going out and buying things, but I do want to understand what it is that we're being fed by the media, and it's, I don't know, it's very confusing because one other thing, there's a combo item that, talking about food. The combo used to be $5.99. You go to Domino's Pizza, it was always $5.99. You could get pizza, or you could get one of their dishes, or you could get a dessert, $5.99, and you could do 2 for something and then keep adding to it. And it was $5.99 a piece, right? Well, now that's $7.99. And we've seen gas prices go up. We've seen the cost of groceries go up. But I still see people doing the things that you would normally associate with when money's tight, you don't do, like going out to eat or going on vacations. Just things. Airlines, you look at the airline industry, they are busting at the seams. They're having to tell the airline companies to stop selling tickets because they can't handle the volume of people. So that's my one issue, concern, question. Question's a good word to use, question. What does it mean? Explain it to me. And then number 2, where are the people working to be able to go out and do this? Because you keep hearing there's a labor crisis. You hear on the news that, traditional, where people were working before, they are not working now, and that there's a huge labor shortage. I see it all the time, especially in like fast food restaurants, where they say the lobby's not open because we don't have enough people to staff the restaurant, so we can only work the drive-through. And so you see that, and you wonder, okay, so where are these people working? Airline industry, another key example. They don't have enough people there, baggage handlers and people working inside the airport, and so they can't support the people buying tickets. They can't support all that business, and so they're canceling flights at the last minute because they just can't get that flight up in the air. So I ask you, where are these people working? Where did they go after the pandemic? The pandemic did, it shifted a lot of people into different career paths, because either restaurants shut down, or businesses shut down, or industries shut down, just because they were so dependent on that human interaction. And then when you didn't have people coming in, or customers coming in, you had to shut it down. So I get that part, and it did create an employment shift, but where did it shift them to? They can't all be making money on YouTube. They can't all be delivering food or being Uber drivers. So where do they go? What are they now doing that's created this labor shortage? Okay. Amazon's even feeling the pinch. I mentioned this on an earlier podcast, that out west, that they said they will have maximized the available employment resources in certain areas, that there just won't be any more people to hire. Not that they've hired everyone there. They're not all working for Amazon, but the amount of available labor will have been acquired by a certain time frame, and they just won't be able to hire anymore. So You tell me. Always willing to learn. So just email me. Let me know what your thoughts are, because that's something that I've been working with, dealing with, questioning. What does it all mean? All right, along those same lines, and I've mentioned it again a couple times, and it's just something that every time I turn around, I'm seeing more and more on it or about it, and it's the housing market. Back in 2008, 2009, we had the housing market bubble, and we had this huge correction. Okay, and housing prices had escalated and escalated and escalated, and then the bottom fell out, and what you thought was worth $300,000 is now only worth $200,000, and so we had this huge market correction. Okay, I'm reminded of a movie, The Warrior, with Tom Hardy. Did you ever see that one? I'm going to give you one of the plot lines. Hold on just a moment. One of the plot lines is Tom Hardy's brother. He is a teacher, and he had his house refinanced because they thought the house was worth, let's say, just for round numbers, $300,000. So he had paid off a certain amount of money. So they refinanced his house at the higher value, $300,000. Then they had the correction. Come to find out, the house is only worth $200,000. So now he's got this huge deficit on the house. And now the bank wants that money because they've loaned him money based on a value that the house is no longer worth that much. So he's upside down. So they want their money. And so that's kind of one of the major plot points of that movie. Okay, so we had the huge correction. Well, now here we are, 2022, housing prices are astronomical. Where I live, my house is now, I think, 50,000 or 50% more than when I bought it in just before the pandemic. I moved in 2020, and then we had the pandemic. All right, so now my house is worth almost $100,000 more than what I paid for it. Okay, on paper. Now, my logic says that we're going to have another correction, that we can't continue to overvalue housing, that at some point it's got to correct itself because, we've got interest rates going up and eventually those need to come back down. So we're going to have a correction. But I'm seeing in the media that we won't, that this is where prices are going to be. And they're never going to come back down. They're always going to be this much. And so if you're looking to sell, that you need to do that in the next couple of years because the prices just aren't going to go back down. I don't know if that's true, but I'm appealing to you. There are way more of you out there than there are of me sitting right here. So I'm hoping maybe some of you have insight, maybe some housing market knowledge that you can pass on to the rest of us. Love to bring it up on the podcast and share that with everybody. All right, on to topic number 3. Is it just me, or are people more rude now since the pandemic? I would think that a pandemic would, kind of, if nothing else, unite people because we all had to deal with the same thing and we were all stuck inside for 2 years. And so you would think that a pandemic, something like that, would galvanize people and we would just be nicer to each other. But I'm finding more and more often, whether I'm on the road driving, whether I go through a drive-throughs, they never, I don't want to say never, very rarely tell you, hey, have a nice day. Thank you for coming. See you next time. It's very rare. And I did go to a Dunkin' Donuts today, and to their credit, the staff there was phenomenal. I had my dog in the back seat. They saw the dog. They went bananas, went really above and beyond to cater to us. So that was very nice, but that's rare. And I mentioned this on my Instagram. When I hike or run, I like to go out on trails. And if you've ever been on a trail, they're not very wide, and you've got people coming back and forth, up the mountain, down the mountain. And so there are points where it's tight and you have to concede. So you either make way for someone else or they pull to the side and make room for you. Now, because I'm older, I see people on the trail. The last thing I want to do is be that guy who looks at you and walks by and doesn't say anything. To me, that's just rude. And so if I'm walking on the trail and you look up and we look at each other, I'm going to say, good morning. How are you? Hey, enjoy the trail. Have a great day. If we're walking by and you keep your head down, or if you're looking off somewhere else and we don't make eye contact, I'm going to let you go. All right. If we're walking and you're coming towards me, I'm usually, more often than not, going to move over and let you come by. That's just the way I am. Most of the time when I'm on the trail, I'm trying to run. And so I'll come up behind somebody and I'll say, hey, excuse me, can I come by? And they usually move to the side. Yeah, sure. And I go by. All right. But I will tell you this, that if I see people coming, especially if they have kids or a dog, I don't want to run by a dog. So I'll pull over to the side, let them walk by. 80% of the time, they just walk by. I went out this past weekend. I would say easily 80% of the people that walked by didn't say anything, just kept talking, kept their conversation going. I'm standing there on the side, and it was like they expected it. It's like they were entitled. You hear that term a lot with certain age groups, and that's the impression I got. They felt like it was their right to walk by unencumbered and that it was my obligation to make way for them. I will say this, that the few exceptions to that were people who were my age, probably 45 or older. They were the ones who said, thank you, or hey, have a great day. And it just really bothered me that so many people were that rude. And I see it on the roadways. People they will cut you off in a minute. They don't use blinkers. They are just looking out for themselves all the time. And so it's very frustrating when you're out and about and you have to deal with as many people as you have to deal with. And you're constantly, coming into contact. Oh, and I'll give you another one. And I know I cut myself off and it's just that my brain works so much faster than my mouth. I'm standing in a store. Remember, I went to the outlet mall. I'm standing in a store. I think it was Adidas. And I saw a young lady, probably in her early teens, standing in line, had a pair of slides that she was going to buy. And she's, just looking around. I see a gentleman slide right in front of her and didn't say anything to her, didn't say anything. I just walked right in front of her, stood in line because he could, because he's an adult and she's a child, and who's going to stop him? And so I saw that. Then I go to a movie that night. Two guys go out from one theater, adults go from one theater, they go down the hall, go into the theater I'm in, and go and sit right in front of us. They didn't buy those tickets. And so that's what we're having to deal with, just people who are only looking out for themselves, and it's like they flip off everybody else. They don't care. They're like, you are here for me, and I don't have to do anything for you. And it's just very frustrating. And so and another thing, I'm driving, and on 75 here in Atlanta, 75 is usually crowded all the time. There's a lot of traffic on 75. And I'm coming up to my exit, and I'm about a quarter mile away, and traffic starts to back up. And so I get in the far right lane because I know I'm getting off of the freeway. And traffic's backed up. We're inching forward. And in my rearview mirror, I see someone pull out of the lane of traffic and go down the shoulder straight for the off-ramp. I'm like, you see all these other cars. What makes you think you are so important that you don't have to wait like everybody else? And that's the thing that bothers me. And let me know if you're seeing some of these same things, because it seems more prevalent now since the pandemic. Maybe people have a different approach to life now. They think, hey, any minute we could have another pandemic. And so I just want to, get what I can while I can. I don't know. So you tell me. All right. The last topic. I may need my glasses for this one. Hold on just a moment. It'll look like a monocle here for a minute. Okay. This is another interesting topic. Another just, basic observation. I was talking to a friend at work that said they went out to California, saw a lot of Trump flags, and they were very surprised by that because they thought of California as more of a very liberal state, and that they wouldn't see as much, as many Trump flags or Trump supporters as they did. And I see, especially because I live in the South, I see a lot of Trump flags also. Trump hats and yard signs, and it got me thinking, chances of him actually running right now look pretty slim. I mean, there's always a chance, but I think when you see those flags, it's not about him anymore. It's about a movement. It's bigger than just one person. When you see a Trump flag, it just means that I am conservative and I fall in line with that ideology. All right. Usually someone who believes in gun rights, someone who believes in less government, not more, someone who really does enjoy lower gas prices and a strong foreign policy. And so I think that's what it means now. It doesn't mean that, hey, we really support Trump personally. Some of them do. But I think for the most part, it's we believe in that ideal, that political. I don't know the word to use. It's just not coming to me right now. But that I will say ideology, but that political viewpoint and some of those political stances, I guess. But you tell me, when you see that, do you think, when you see a Trump flag, do you think that the people flying it actually want Trump the person, or do they want Trump the policies? Because I will tell you this, when he was in office, there were things that we could count on. A very strong foreign policy, a very strong economic policy. We were not going to get shortchanged by any other countries. The two things that come to mind when he was in office is the Iran nuclear deal. He got us out of that because there was no way they were going to live up to it. And so why be part of an agreement that the other party isn't going to honor? And then also there was a climate pact, an alliance in Europe, the Paris something. It wasn't peace accords, but it was something to do with the environment. And he pulled us out of that because we were the ones putting all the money in. And again, it wasn't something that we were going to get the most value out of. So he said, it doesn't make sense to me, so we're going to pull out. And these are things that the current president are trying to get us back into. I don't believe that's the right decision. If you look back, since we left those, what do you call them? Pacts, agreements. Deals. Yeah, that's a good word, deals. Once we left those, what happened? What was the fallout? Nothing. I don't see where it made a hill of beans difference. Changed my mind. Let me know what was the fallout of us leaving those agreements, those deals, pacts, whatever you want to call them. Because I don't really think our involvement or non-involvement made all that much difference. But I know here's one other thing. I didn't even write it down, and it just came to me while I was talking. Have you heard that Starbucks is closing 16 stores? They're citing safety, customer safety, and employee safety. 16 stores. And they're in D.C., Portland, L.A., and I think Seattle was the other one. And if you look at those 4 locations, they all suffered huge protests during BLM. And so if you look at the fallout from that's kind of the cause of what's causing it to be so unsafe. And so I saw this on Instagram, and I want to get your feedback on it because it made sense to me, and I want to know if it makes sense to you and if it's true. But they're saying that in these cities, that's why they're closing these stores, because of safety concerns, but they're the same place that had places that had a large BLM presence during the protests, and that now has, the fallout from that has created these unsafe conditions, a lot of homelessness, a lot of crime, a lot of drugs. And so you tell me, is it coincidence? Is there a connection? What can we derive from that? Because you very rarely see successful businesses close like that. I will say I've seen businesses close in California because of all the looting, not looting. What was it? It's like a flash mob robbery where 30 people just show up and they just take what they want and leave. And so, yeah, if that's happening in the town I have a business, I'm going to close that business because that just doesn't make sense to try and keep a business open with that going on. So you tell me, is this just the media hyping up something that doesn't exist, or does this make sense? Have you seen the same thing? Let me know in the comments. Email me. Love to bring it up, do a follow-up episode, and talk about those topics. But hey, that's what I got for you today. Those are the topics. And real quick, FDuce dynamic microphone, the SL40. Let me know your thoughts. It's supposed to be a poor man's version of the Shure dynamic microphone that a lot of podcasters and professional content creators use. And I'm telling you, I'm really digging the quality right now. Again, it's just running through my headphones, and so I like it. But you tell me, what does it sound like? Is it better than the microphones I've used in the past? Is it equal to the quality you hear on other podcasts? Because most of the podcasts, and the two that come to mind right now, I listen to Smartless with Justin Bateman, Will Arnett, and there's another guy that I will not remember his name while I'm sitting here, Sean something. I know they all use the Shure microphones. And then I also listen to Dax Shepard, Armchair Expert, and he uses a Shure microphone. And so they're very, very popular. This is supposed to be in the same quality, have similar quality to that one. And it's a USB microphone or XLR, if you know anything about that, different ways of connecting it to your computer. You can see that right here. And so very simple plug and play. So you tell me, is the quality there? Is it not there? I'd love to know your opinions. Hey, but for now, this is Mike. This has been the Low Def Media Podcast. Appreciate you taking the time. And if you like this kind of content, we just ask, become a subscriber. Really helps out the channel. And with that, we look forward to seeing you in the next one.